In the year of our Lord, 1347, when kings prayed and peasants toiled, when the bells of Christendom still sang of glory, death came, not with a sword, but with a whisper. It was a time of faith and fear, a world ruled by the church, chained by feudal lords, and guided by the rhythm of seasons. From the castles of France to the villages of England, men believed the order of the world was eternal, that God's hand held the sun and moon in place. But far to the east, in the distant lands of the Mongol Khans, across the windswept steppes and the spice routes of China, something unseen stirred. A sickness, a shadow. It crept upon the caravans that stitched together the world, silent, invisible, and patient. In the belly of ships and the fur of rats, it waited. In the sting of a flea, it crossed empires. And when it reached Europe, civilization itself began to drown. What if I told you that 1 out of every 3 souls alive would soon perish? That the wealth of nations would vanish, that cities would fall silent, and that this silent killer would reshape the destiny of mankind forever. This is not merely a tale of plague. It is the story of how death rebuilt the world. The plague began, scholars believe, in the mountains of Central Asia, where wild rodents carried a deadly bacterium, Yersinia pestis. Through the arteries of the Silk Road, it traveled westward, riding upon the trade of spices, silk, and silver, the lifeblood of the known world. In 1346, the Mongol army of the Golden Horde laid siege to the Genoese city of Caffa upon the Black Sea. But within their ranks, soldiers began to die. Their bodies swelled with black sores, their flesh darkened, their breath stank of death. In a desperate act of vengeance, Mongol generals ordered the catapulting of their infected corpses over the city walls, one of the first recorded uses of biological warfare. The defenders, terrified, fled aboard ships, carrying with them not victory, but the seeds of apocalypse. Those ships, bound for Constantinople, Messina, and Genoa, unleashed the pestilence upon Europe. And so began the Great Dying. By October 1347, the first ships docked in Messina, Sicily. Witnesses said black rats swarmed from the holds and men fell dead within days. Sailors coughed blood and collapsed in the streets. The air stank of decay, and priests refused to enter the homes of the dying. From Sicily, the plague leapt north, to Genoa, Marseille, and Venice, the beating heart of trade. Then to Florence, jewel of the Renaissance yet unborn. In his chronicle, the Italian writer Giovanni Boccaccio described scenes from hell itself. Father abandoned child, wife fled husband, brother left brother to die. Corpses were left in the streets and dogs tore at their flesh. Within months, Florence lost 60% of its people. Paris buried 800 dead each day. London, once the pride of England, fell silent, its graveyards overflowing, its bells tolling endlessly. Men spoke of a punishment from God, the sins of humanity paid in blood. But no prayer could still the scythe.
The very air was believed cursed. Physicians burned herbs and carried flowers to mask the stench. Thus came the plague doctor, cloaked in black, face hidden behind a beak filled with perfume and fear. Even kings fled their courts. In England, King Edward III sealed the city gates. In France, King Philip VI ordered mass processions and fasts, yet the dead only multiplied. The pestilence spread faster than any army, and far deadlier.
By 1349, it had reached Scotland, Scandinavia, and Russia, a continent undone. With death came chaos. The church, once the unshakable pillar of faith, found itself powerless. Priests died administering last rites. Monks abandoned monasteries. Even the Pope himself, Clement VI, barricaded in Avignon, surrounded by fires to purify the air, confessed his helplessness. When faith fails, fear reigns. And so began the madness of vigilance. Men who roamed from town to town, whipping themselves in public minutes, crying that the wrath of God would cease only when all flesh was cleansed by pain. But humanity's terror turned darker still. Rumors spread that Jews had poisoned wells. And in 1,000 towns, the innocent were slaughtered. Massacres in Strasbourg, Mainz, Basel, and Cologne. Entire communities were burned alive. It was not of plague, but of human cruelty. laborers who survived found themselves precious, for every pair of hands was needed to rebuild. Serfs demanded wages, lords, desperate, were forced to grant them. Thus began the end of feudalism, the ancient system that had bound man to master for centuries. The common people, once voiceless, rose in defiance. In England, the Peasants' Revolt of 1381 echoed the cry for freedom born from plague's aftermath. In Italy, new merchant republics thrived, built by men who no longer believed destiny was fixed by birth. Even thought itself changed. Where once the church's word was law, now men questioned, measured, and sought knowledge. Physicians began to dissect, observe, and record, and from this age of questioning arose the spark of the Renaissance, a rebirth born from ruin. Art, science, and philosophy flowered where death had once reigned. The brush of Giotto, the mind of Leonardo, the pen of Petrarch, all were shaped by a world that had looked death in the eye and chosen to live wiser. But death does not vanish easily. The plague returned again in 1361, 1369, 1374, and again, each wave claiming more lives. Children of survivors grew into adults who had never known security, only fear. Europe learned to live with the shadow, to respect its power, to wash, to bury, to heal. For the first time, governments began to enforce quarantines, from the Italian 40 giorni, meaning 40 days. The city of Venice became the first to build lazarettos, islands of isolation where ships were held and passengers inspected. Thus, modern public health was born. Even centuries later, echoes of the Black Death returned. In Marseille, 1720, in India and China, 1855, and even in whispers of later pandemics that remind us, the enemy never dies, it merely sleeps. Thus fell the old world, and from its grave, the new was born. The Black Death was not just a plague, it was a miracle. That in the face of death, we find what we truly are. It humbled kings, silenced priests, and empowered peasants. It tore down superstition, but built the foundations of science. It destroyed the medieval world, and yet, in its ruin, planted the seeds of modern civilization. From those dark years came new light, the questioning mind, the human spirit, the will to understand the unseen. Every hospital, every vaccine, every act of compassion in the shadow of disease owes a whisper of its birth to that ancient terror. And even now, when new plagues sweep across nations, when fear once more grips our hearts, the ghost of the Black Death reminds us, civilization is fragile, but humanity endures. The pestilence came to end mankind, yet in truth, it remade him. And thus ends the chronicle of the great mortality, the Black Death, the plague that changed humanity forever.